Thank God you're not inflicting Biden on us. That would be worse, fate worse than death.
Yeah. I am many things, but I'm not a sadist, Mike. You know, I've got to give the listeners a bit of a break. Why do you think it is when the Queen and her family have always seen to be above politics that they are suddenly in the thick of this green madness? Why are they spouting political dogma? Why are they, in effect, telling us to back the government's policy on the environment?
Well, I think the problem here now is that the Queen was supposed to be the head of state that was going to sit at the head table, the top table up in Glasgow. Because of her ill health, she'd been told she can't do that. So she was always going to make a speech. And I think her speech was actually reasonably personal. It talked a lot about her family and Prince Philip, who was in many ways one of the first proper conservationists. I mean, he was involved with the World Wildlife Fund. He was actually involved in the husbandry of Windsor Estate, and he knew a thing or two about it. But he didn't wander about going telling people not to eat meat or not to drive around in Land Rovers because they were powered by diesel. And so I'm less worried in a way about the Queen because, you know, she has to make the Queen's speech every year, which is where she talks about my government will do this and my government will do that. But I'm a bit more worried about Charles, right, who doesn't really have a portfolio here at all. He travels around with 134 people, a bed and a toilet seat. And he's telling us all that we have to somehow be more prudent with the way that we spend the resources of the world. And as for William and Kate, I don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about, you know, companies treating things differently, looking at things differently. Well, it must be great to sit at home when you know you don't actually have to do very much before you can have, you know, hot and cold running butlers, people to make your clothes for you, people to buy your clothes for you. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's this green business, this issue of climate change. All the rules that we've been used to seem to have been thrown out. I mean, one rule I've always tried to stick to, and I know you have too, Mike, is to try to look at things, look at the facts, and try to work out what I think. We don't seem to be allowed to look at the facts about the environment. We are told that this crisis, this alleged climate change emergency, is man-made. There's no evidence to prove that. It's possible that we've contributed, humanity has contributed to our problems, maybe to a large extent, maybe to a small extent. No one has computed this. And yet, in effect, the Queen, Charlie, Harry, William, they are regurgitating this orthodoxy about climate change as if it is fact. And now the Queen is a very influential person, and it worries me that she is preaching this orthodoxy to her faithful and loyal subjects. It is a new departure for this family, and I'm not sure it's a good precedent.
No, I think you're right. And I think more important, really, than whatever it is that they think is causing it, is the fact that they think they've got the cure, which is to me even more problematic, because to say that to get to net zero will somehow stop climate change. And I was listening to Boris's press conference this afternoon where he was talking about how, you know, we have to try and get to the point where the planet's temperature doesn't rise by more than 1.5 degrees, because otherwise everybody knows if that happens, we're all in terrible trouble. Well, we don't actually. You know, we're subjected once again to the scientific models of all these maniacs who like to predict things, most of which have not come true. Let me remind you that the UN panel on climate change has consistently got every single prediction wrong over the course of the last 30 or 40 years. You know, according to them, Canary Wharf was supposed to be underwater around the beginning of this century. You know, that hasn't happened. You know, the Maldives was meant to be underwater. That hasn't happened. I mean, yesterday Boris Johnson was talking about Miami being underwater in a few years' time. I mean, it's simply not something that they can stand over and promise is the case, because they don't really know. And so even if they do start advising people to get to net zero, I see that Harry and Meghan have tonight issued a statement to say that the Archewell Foundation will be net zero in 9 years' time. Well, they don't do anything.
Why is it taking 9 years?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just stop. You know, they say we're going to look at what we eat and how often we eat it. Well, why does that take 9 bloody years?
Exactly right. I mean, that's really sums up what worries me. What the royal family have bought into, 100%, seemingly like everyone else, except for a few people like you and I, Mike, is the fact that, or is the allegation or the suggestion that we are in the midst of a climate change emergency. So Her Majesty the Queen, Charlie, William, Harry, Meghan, they are all propagating this suggestion that We don't only have climate changing, we have a climate change emergency. And as I say, that is debatable. And I think it's not healthy that an institution like the royal family is pushing what amounts to a political dogma or a political viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that's right. But in many ways, maybe what it actually illustrates, Kevin, is that it's no longer just a political dogma. It's no longer something that political parties have any difference of opinion about. Because if you look at all of the parties in this country, there aren't any that don't believe in this climate change mantra that we have to somehow get to net zero. The Labour Party believe it. The Lib Dems believe it. Some of the smaller parties maybe will have a difference of opinion on it. But there is really no major political party now in the world. They're too frightened to question it because they know that if they do, they will be somehow castigated by the likes of Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, we had Jeff Bezos there. We had Bill Gates there today, rambling on about how we've got to do more to save the planet. I mean, these are some of the people that have done the most to destroy it. I mean, how many Amazon vans do you think drive around the world on an average daily basis? I mean, probably billions and billions of carbon tons are being put out into the air by Bezos. But he's Saint Bezos because he's a rich man and he talks nice.
Yeah, and he arrived on his gas-guzzling private jet today.
Of course he did.
And, of course, sends rockets up to the skies. So, once again, I mean, old ground here, Mike, though, but your comments on what I suggest is the epic levels of hypocrisy up there. I think it's an own goal. I think people can see this palpable hypocrisy and they are revolted by it, and therefore they are not keen on this great green cause.
No. Well, when you see the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio flying in 8,000 miles on a private jet to pick up an award for being green, you kind of go, sorry, I'm not sure that that's really a very good example or a great advert for being green. And they're all walking about patting each other on the back, saving the little people, the stupid, ignorant people who don't know anything. We know best because we're talking to the scientists, and the stupid people don't understand it. And all they want to do is be selfish. It's the biggest con I think I've ever witnessed in my entire career as a journalist.
I agree with you. And I think that all these world leaders up there, they must know in their heart of hearts they're just Olympic-class hypocrites. But they've convinced themselves that they've got halos and they're going to save the planet. Yeah. And it's creating a kind of atmosphere of global insanity. Joe Biden, his speech still rambles on, Mike, but he's just said that China has made a big mistake by not attending. I don't agree. I think Xi Jinping made a very good decision. Why take part in this farcical waste of time?
No, I mean, the Chinese are far more intelligent about the way that they treat all matters, really, because they don't listen to the people who are telling them how they should behave. They do what they like. Guess what? That's what sovereign nations do. But we're no longer a sovereign nation because we're part of what you might describe as the great kind of deception, which is this whole Western world's obsession with trying to change everything and make it in its own image. Eat this, don't go there. Give money if you're well enough off to somebody who's worse off than you. They've actually attempted to create real communism, whereas the Chinese are actually coming out of communism and becoming the biggest capitalist country in the world. I'm thinking I might have to go and live there.
Beijing, here we come. And the thing that underpins all of these ridiculous shenanigans going on up in Glasgow is that none of these pledges will be stuck to. We won't be carbon zero in 2050. Saudi Arabia won't be carbon zero in 2060. And India certainly won't be in 2070. This pledge they made about the forest, we're going to stop deforestation by 2030. No, they won't. They're just saying stuff that they know their successors, the people who take over for them, won't bother with. It is one great big fraud, if you ask me.
Well, it's like all of these stories, once you look into them, the Brazilian rainforests are not being laid to waste necessarily by massive multinational companies. An awful lot of the rainforest is chopped down by individual men and women who need money. They don't have jobs. They need to have money. They need to make money to feed their families. They chop down trees. They sell them to the nearest logging company. And that's how they make their living. Now, unless you're going to subsidize every single poor person in the world to have a job so that they don't cut down trees, because that's the only way they can make any money, then you've got a problem. In the same way as the Americans went down to Colombia, tried to persuade all the local farmers to grow coffee instead of cocaine. And they went, why? We make a lot more money growing coca beans, thank you very much indeed, coca plants, and we make loads of money selling to the cartels. You can't suddenly just wade in and go, oh, I'll tell you what, we'll tax Kevin O'Sullivan and Mike Graham a load more, and people will stop cutting down trees in Brazil. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and expect that we don't notice that they fly around in private jets. We do notice, and so we're not going to change our lifestyle until you lot change yours. And even then, it's probably an outside chance. You might. Thanks very much, Mike. But